The program is In Touch. I'm Ginny McGee for our Hall Communication Stations, and with us today is Hannah Kirkpatrick. She is Mrs. Vermont 2013. Hannah, nice to have you here.
Thank you so much, Ginny.
Mrs. Vermont, that means you're married, I guess, and you've been in a competition, and you're going to a bigger competition here very soon. Tell everybody how this all came about as becoming Mrs. Vermont and what that entails.
Sure. All of that is true. I went down to Massachusetts in March and won the competition, the title of Mrs. Vermont, and I will be traveling to compete as one of 51 delegates to become Mrs. America in a very short period of time here coming up on August 28th is finals. And I hope to bring back the title of Mrs. America for the very first time to Vermont.
So you've been Mrs. Vermont for a while. First of all, what got you interested in competing in a pageant like this? I understand you've done a little of this in the past, too.
Yes, it's sort of a funny story. I started competing in pageants at age 16 on a dare. I went to South Burlington High School, and I was such a tomboy that when I received a postcard in the mail saying, come compete for Vermont Teen USA, my friends and my family that were sitting at the dining room table started laughing at me. I had really short hair and I was a 3-season athlete, just, this little twig, and never wore skirts, never wore heels, complete tomboy. And that was the challenge right there. It was set up like, I will do this and I'm going to prove to me that I can do it and prove everyone else wrong. And that started off this quest. For the last 10, 15 years, I moved out to Arizona, sort of learned to embrace my feminine side out there and how to compete in pageants, and never won the state title. It's sort of the Olympics of pageantry out there. And then this last year, a year after having our first baby, I said, it's time to do this again. And this time to give back. I know who I am. I don't need anything else to define me in pageantry or anything else like I used to. And I want to give a year of service, and pageantry is the way that I know how to do that. So that's how it happened this time around. And it's been a really different experience.
So you have a child, a daughter, is that right?
A little girl named Knightley. She's coming up on 2, and her fabulous, terrible 2s, definitely toddler years upon us in September.
Hannah Kirkpatrick, South Burlington High School graduate.
Yes.
You went to college out in Arizona, too, didn't you?
I did. Arizona State.
The Sun Devils. Mrs. Vermont is your role, and you've been Mrs. Vermont for a few months now before you go to the big competition coming up in August. What have you been doing as Mrs. Vermont? I'm sure you've been a few places and talked to a few folks.
I have. It really has been the most incredible opportunity. And like I said, I started wanting to give a year of service, and that's really what it has been. I have been involved in 5K races, one for the Women Helping Battered Women. Got to start the race with the mayor of Burlington and with Miro, and that was awesome. We rang the bell together and then ran the race. And I've done the Maple Sugar Festival, maple syrup, did the sugar on snow, and ate maple ice cream and rode in the parade. I've also had the opportunity to work with a lot of organizations, the Department of Health, Substance Abuse, which is my primary platform. I've been able to talk to a lot of groups, work with a lot of individuals, and just to really work with one person and work with 100 people and hopefully make a difference and inspire, shed some light on people's lives.
So you've been places talking to people, and you'll be doing more of that even after this pageant because your reign as Mrs. Vermont lasts a year.
Exactly. Through March. Whatever happens, if I come home as Mrs. America or if I come home as Mrs. Vermont, I will still be giving the rest of my year of service through March.
And that'll be great. Now, I know you mentioned your platform. This is something you've embraced in being Mrs. Vermont and even before that.
It is. Recovery rocks. Bringing the story and my story about joy and hope through the hard times and getting over hurdles that many of us encounter in life has really been a passion for me. And at first, when I came into this, I didn't necessarily know exactly what I wanted to talk about, but I knew that I wanted to inspire people in some way. And I knew that I wanted to help empower them to bring out the amazingness that I see in each and every person. And through this process, it's actually really been neat that my husband has helped me to see that being a person in long-term recovery from alcohol and substance abuse and addictive and compulsive behaviors really has allowed me, if I step into a place of vulnerability and share a true story of where I've come. Many of us get stuck in the mud and we can't get out of it on our own. When we reach out for help, that's the most courageous thing that we can do. And once we get into a program of recovery, whatever that is, and there's many different paths to recovery, from any behavior or substance that might be getting in our way, there's a light at the end of the tunnel that is so incredibly bright. I thought that, being sober would be boring and dull and I wouldn't be able to talk to people. And I just didn't have a really positive picture of what that might look like for me. And I'm here. I feel really very strongly that I'm here to show people that that's not the case, that there's joy and there's laughter and there is contentment and peace. And life brings you so many new, incredible gifts.
Everybody does have something or some things that kind of hold us up or bring us down. And this is where you've embraced your situation. And you've been speaking to groups and individuals. And this is part of, as you said, your platform, which is a great thing. And you are ready to get involved with anyone who wants to have Mrs. Vermont as part of their organization or maybe one of their featured speakers, right?
I sure am. Yes. Thank you for mentioning that. I am here, like I said, in my year of service to travel the state. I'm looking forward to school groups that are starting again in the fall. I'm working with some guidance counselors to get in and talk to teenagers, adults that are either in recovery programs, in treatment centers, out of recovery. Parents are a really big piece of what I'm here to do, to talk to them, to give them some vision, some support, some hope that people can recover and there can be a really wonderful life on the other side. So, yeah, I'd love to speak to more groups.
I know you battled your own situation and you've come out and you look fabulous and you're going to do well in this pageant. And, of course, what you're going to really do well is communicate with folks up and down the Green Mountain State. We are speaking with Hannah Kirkpatrick. She is Mrs. Vermont and is competing here in just a short few days as this airs. You've been a lot of places. You wanted to thank a lot of people that have helped you, Hannah, because it is tough when we have our rocky roads, and everybody does. But it does happen to be a great thing if you've got friends, individuals, family members to stay there and stick with you, right?
It sure has. My family, Reg and Sue Boucher, who are here in Vermont, have been instrumental. And especially during my year now, during my reign, if you will, as Mrs. Vermont, I've been able to do a lot of it with the help of so many people. And my parents take care of the baby, my mom especially, a couple of days a week. And my husband, Chris Kirkpatrick, has been absolutely amazing and supportive. And it really does take a village. People ask me all the time, how do you do this? There's so many things. I'm traveling, I'm speaking, and it's a very full schedule as well as preparing. And it's not about me. And it's sort of a lot of the same things as we learn in recovery is that by learning to let go and be trusting and be grateful for everything that we have, we attract the people into our lives who bring out the best in us. And then in turn, we can pull others up and show them the light that they have within them. And I really would not be able to do it on my own. Either my recovery piece or going and speaking and hopefully bringing some hope and some joy to folks who might be struggling or are in a family with someone who's struggling, and just give them a little nudge, move in the right direction in baby steps, and you'll get to where you want to be.
Well, I'm a firm believer in every day is a good day. We all should really embrace life instead of sitting around complaining about things all the time. But I've complained once or twice, I'll be honest. But, yes. It's really very interesting when you are putting together a schedule as Mrs. Vermont. Your schedule every day must be a little different, some busier than others. So this isn't just a regular 9 to 5 or whatever they call them, regular day job. It's a full-time job for the year.
It is a full-time job, and people think that it's all about, or often think that it's all about the sparkle. They see the crown, they see the sash, they see a put-together, quote-unquote, polished person, and they don't see everything else, that we're driving around town and we're putting makeup on in the car, and that there really is a mission that drives it. It's not just about the sparkle on the awesome glittery shoes that I get to wear, it's super fun, don't get me wrong, but it's really about developing the sparkle on the inside for me. And it's been a journey in terms of self-development and self-discovery and self-improvement. And the best part for me is that I get to share that with other people, and letting someone wear the crown, for instance, if I'm seeing a child, or I've had women in their 50s and 60s that I've met during speaking engagements and tours and whatnot. And you put that crown and that sash on and you watch someone just light up. I see in them the magnificence that I see every day, but it's really amazing that then they see it for that split second. And what a gift that is.
Let's talk about your competition. Now, you talked about you're a tomboy and you're a jock, but now you're a runner, and now you're going to have to really pony up with some exercise with these other 50 women in this competition coming up for Mrs. America.